It began with a single line scrawled across a torn page. "They're not from the sky. They're from below." Those were the final words of Dr. Elias Warren before he vanished without a trace. His apartment was locked from the inside, his research erased, and his instruments still humming with power. But what did he mean? What was from below? What if the signals scientists thought came from distant stars were actually rising through the crust of our own planet? What if what we've been searching for in the heavens has been beneath our feet all along? What if the oldest intelligence on Earth didn't evolve beside us, but beneath us? Tonight, we follow the trail Warren left behind. From a flicker of seismic noise to a discovery that may rewrite everything humanity believes about its place in the universe. Dr. Nora Vale arrived at the research facility just after dawn, the rain still whispering against the windows. She had worked beside Dr. Elias Warren for nearly a decade and knew his habits well. He never left his workspace in chaos. Yet now, the lab was silent, his chair empty, and the faint vibration under her feet pulsed like a heartbeat. On his desk lay the remnants of a shattered coffee mug and fragments of burned paper. The computers, though wiped clean, still emitted a soft hum, as if something unseen continued to run in the background. Nora leaned close to a surviving fragment of code and saw a string of repeating numbers, 3, 6, 9, looping endlessly. It was the same numerical sequence Warren had once described as the rhythm of the deep. She didn't yet know that those numbers were already being detected beneath the Pacific floor. Agent Cole Harding arrived that afternoon, his badge catching the gray light filtering through the blinds. To him, this was just another missing person, until he saw the data logs. Every timestamp ended at precisely 2:11 a.m., the same minute Warren's note was written. Harding asked Nora what Warren had been researching, but she hesitated. "He said the signals weren't coming from above," she murmured. The agent frowned. "Then, from where?" She looked down, voice trembling. "From below us." The hum beneath the floor seemed to grow stronger, resonating with an unseen pattern. It was as though something vast and distant was listening back. Later that night, Dr. Nora Vale returned alone. The power had gone out, and the facility was drenched in darkness, save for the emergency lights pulsing faint red. She carried a flashlight, its beam cutting through the dust. Near the back of the lab, she found an access panel she'd never noticed before. Behind it, a narrow staircase descending into the ground. Her pulse quickened. On the wall, written faintly in chalk, were the same numbers, 3, 6, 9, repeated endlessly, spiraling downward. From the depths below, she could hear a faint metallic echo, like breathing through stone. Deep underground, the tunnel felt alive. The air was thick and humid, vibrating with low resonance. Nora's flashlight revealed smooth walls lined with dark mineral veins pulsing faintly, as though carrying light from below. At the far end of the tunnel, she found a steel door with a small viewing panel. Behind it, faint blue light shimmered, rhythmic and slow. Her hand trembled as she lifted the latch, but the door wouldn't budge. Then, through the glass, something moved, fluid, almost human in shape, gliding soundlessly past. Her breath caught. This was no geological formation. Whatever Dr. Warren had found, it wasn't from the sky. By dawn, Nora had extracted fragments from Warren's damaged hard drive. Lines of seismic data appeared interlaced with strange digital patterns, symbols resembling DNA sequences, yet distorted and looping. When she ran the files through her decryption software, the result wasn't numbers but sound. Low, rhythmic, pulsing tones, like breathing or a heart beating through stone. She called Agent Harding, her voice trembling. "It's not noise," she whispered. "It's communication." The agent listened over the phone as the signal repeated. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause, an ancient, patient rhythm. Whatever was beneath them wasn't random. Whatever was beneath them, it was aware. When Harding arrived, the signal was still playing, echoing through the speakers in a steady pulse. He crossed his arms, brow furrowed. "It sounds like sonar," he muttered. Nora shook her head. "Sonar reflects. This responds." She turned up the volume. Beneath the main rhythm, another layer emerged, a whispering pattern of faint tones, almost melodic. Nora isolated the frequencies and found they matched seismic disturbances recorded near the Pacific Ridge, the same coordinates Warren had studied. Harding stared at the map. "You're saying this came from under the ocean?" Nora nodded slowly. "No," she replied. "From under the ocean floor." Dr. Simon Yates, Warren's old mentor, arrived unexpectedly later that evening. He looked pale, holding a worn folder. "I told him to stop," he said quietly. Inside the folder were old research documents stamped Project Umbra. Yates explained that decades ago similar patterns had been detected. Vibrations deep beneath continental plates that moved in deliberate intervals. Governments dismissed them as geological anomalies, but Warren had traced them. He believed there was structure below. Yates continued. Yates continued. A living network, older than the crust itself. Nora glanced at Harding, the hum of the computers growing louder, the pattern repeating. 3, 6, 9. Like an endless countdown. As night fell, Nora played back Warren's last recorded audio log. His voice trembled through static. "If you hear this, don't dig deeper. They know when you listen." The recording ended with a strange clicking noise, like distant claws scraping metal. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment the signal on the monitor spiked, forming a perfect sine wave before vanishing. The hum beneath the facility grew into a faint vibration. Harding grabbed his radio, but the signal was dead. Nora whispered, "It's responding to sound." A low pulse resonated through the floor, as though something beneath was answering. The following morning, a deep tremor struck the coastline. Reports poured in from nearby towns, underground sounds like thunder, rhythmic and deliberate. Nora and Harding rushed outside, the ground still trembling beneath their boots. The ocean appeared strangely calm, the horizon too still. Then a single massive wave of air, not water, swept over them, bending the trees and shattering the lab windows. In the distance, gulls scattered in panic as a low, echoing tone rolled out from below the cliffs. Nora turned to Harding, whispering, "It's awake." The Earth's heartbeat had become something else, something alive and listening. 3 days after the tremor, Nora and Harding were granted access to a restricted naval archive on the coast. Within it lay data logs dating back 40 years, recordings of identical rhythmic pulses that predated Warren's discovery by decades. A young technician mentioned the files had been classified under deep resonance, monitoring a project terminated without explanation. As the pair listened through the old recordings, the same sound returned. The pulse, the pattern, and faintly, a whisper layered beneath it, something that almost formed words. Harding froze the playback, staring at Nora. "It's a voice," he said. She nodded slowly. "And it's calling from below." Harding found coordinates embedded in the metadata of Warren's final recording. Midway across the Pacific Ridge, near a decommissioned underwater seismic station known as DS9, Nora knew the place. Warren had once called it the mouth of the Earth. They arranged for a submersible descent through a private research vessel. As the ship departed, the sea was unnervingly calm, the air thick with electricity. Nora stared at the horizon and whispered, "He was right." Harding asked quietly, "About what?" She replied, "They were never coming down to us." A thunderclap echoed in the distance, as if something beneath the waves had answered. Descending beneath the waves, the world above vanished into darkness. The submersible's lights cut through the black, revealing drifting particles that shimmered like dust in space. Nora monitored the sonar display. The signal grew stronger with each meter downward. Harding kept his hand near the emergency control, watching the pressure readings climb. Depth, 4,000 meters, Nora said quietly. Then, the sonar pinged, once, twice, then silence. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on the radar, a vast moving shape below them, larger than any geological formation. Harding's voice was barely a whisper. That's not the seafloor. At 4,500 meters, they reached the structure. Massive metallic walls embedded in volcanic rock, covered in strange growths resembling coral and circuitry intertwined. The markings pulsed faint blue, forming patterns that matched Warren's numerical sequences. It's artificial, Nora whispered. Harding adjusted the floodlights, revealing a circular hatch in the center. As he reached for the controls, the sub's instruments flickered wildly. A distorted voice crackled through the radio. Warren's voice. Don't open it. They're awake. Then silence. The floodlights dimmed, and the blue glow from the structure intensified, responding like a living pulse. The sub's sensors overloaded, and alarms blared as the entire ocean floor began to tremble. Nora shouted coordinates into the comms, but the connection dissolved into static. Outside, fragments of rock lifted and drifted upward as though gravity had shifted. The structure's center cracked open, revealing a swirling column of light extending deep into the fissure below. Harding tried to steer them away, but the current pulled them closer. Nora screamed over the roar. It's not a machine, it's alive. As the light consumed their view, everything went white. Then silence. Only the sound of the ocean remained. The first thing Nora felt was the silence. The sub had stopped shaking, and for a moment she thought they were still underwater. But when she opened her eyes, sunlight streamed through the cracked viewport. The sub lay half buried in black sand on a deserted shoreline. The sky was pale gray, and the ocean behind her was eerily calm. Harding was slumped beside her, breathing shallowly. They had resurfaced. Yet, the depth gauge still read 4,500 meters. Nora crawled outside, her ears ringing, and saw something impossible. Strange, circular impressions dotted the sand, glowing faintly blue before fading into nothing. Hours passed before Harding regained full consciousness. He looked around in disbelief. We surfaced miles from the coordinates, he muttered. Nora, still trembling, stared at the sand where the glowing imprints had been. They were gone now, erased by the tide. When Harding checked the onboard recorder, the hard drive was corrupted, except for one remaining file. They played it back on a portable device. It wasn't Warren's voice this time. It was something lower, slower, like a language built from echoes. As the recording played, the tide began to recede unnaturally far, exposing jagged black stones shaped like the structure they'd seen below. They reached a small coastal town by dusk, dazed and disoriented. No one believed their story, until the tremors began again. Glasses rattled, lights flickered, and car alarms screamed in unison. Nora rushed outside as a deep vibration rolled through the earth. People froze in the streets, staring toward the distant sea where the horizon shimmered unnaturally, bending upward like a mirage. Harding turned to her, fear visible in his eyes. "It followed us," he said quietly. Nora's phone buzzed. An unknown number. When she answered, a familiar voice whispered through static, "You shouldn't have opened it." It was Warren. That night, Nora couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the last seconds before the sub was engulfed in light. The voice, the pulse, the feeling that something vast was watching. She examined the residue collected on her hands from the sub's hull. Under a microscope, it pulsed faintly, as if alive. The material matched no known mineral or organism. It emitted low electromagnetic frequencies, identical to the ones Warren had documented. Harding entered the lab quietly. "It's not over," she said, eyes fixed on the glowing sample. "This thing, it's spreading." Outside, the ground shuddered once more, like a slow breath from the deep. Just before dawn, the power grid across the coast went dark. Nora and Harding rushed outside. Along the beach, hundreds of faint blue lights were emerging from the sand, blinking slowly like eyes opening. The ocean was receding again, this time farther than before. Nora's breath caught as the seabed began to rise, forming dark, curved shapes beneath the waves, massive and deliberate. "They're not coming," she whispered. "They're already here." The wind fell still, and the entire shoreline vibrated with a low, resonant hum. For the first time, Harding felt it too. Not fear, but recognition. Within 24 hours, seismic stations around the world began reporting identical rhythmic pulses. 3, 6, 9, the same pattern, the same intervals. But this time, the signals were not only heard, they were seen. Electronic screens glitched, light bulbs flickered in sync, and static radios whispered words no one could translate. In her temporary lab, Nora stared at the monitors as the waveforms formed a recognizable shape. A spiral, like the one she had seen beneath the sea. Harding's phone rang with emergency calls from the government. "It's spreading faster than light," he muttered. Nora whispered, "No, it's spreading through sound." By noon, news stations were broadcasting the strange phenomenon live. The pulse had reached every major city, vibrating through the airwaves, knocking out satellites and interfering with power grids. Some people claimed to hear voices in the hum, not human, but rhythmic and melodic, as if speaking through resonance. Nora replayed Warren's last recording, amplifying the deeper frequencies. Within the hum, a faint phrase repeated, "Below. Remember below." Harding leaned forward, disbelief washing over his face. "That's his voice," he said. Nora froze. The impossible truth echoed in her mind. Warren hadn't vanished. He had joined them. Harding reached out to Dr. Simon Yates, desperate for answers. The older scientist looked frightened when he appeared on the video call. "It's not new," Yates said. "Project Umbra detected this before, in 1963, but it stopped." Nora leaned forward. "Why?" Yates hesitated, then whispered, "Because we answered it." He held up a file labeled, "Return Signal." Nora's pulse quickened. "You mean we transmitted back?" He nodded slowly. "And whatever we contacted then, it's waking now." Before he could say more, the call cut to static. On the screens behind them, the spiral pattern began to rotate faster. That night, the coastal air shimmered with strange static. Waves rolled onto the beach without sound, moving as if pushed by unseen tides. Nora and Harding set up portable transmitters, attempting to block the spreading signal. Instead, their equipment began to resonate on its own, vibrating to the same frequency. From the cliffs above, they watched as the entire ocean's surface began to glow faintly blue. Harding whispered, "It's communicating through the planet." Nora stared silently, tears forming in her eyes. "No," she said. "It is the planet beneath their feet." The ground pulsed once, deep and slow, like a heartbeat. Just before dawn, Nora recorded a final log. Her voice was calm, resigned. "If anyone hears this, remember what Warren said. They're not from the sky. They were always here, waiting." Behind her, the sea glowed brighter, pulsing in perfect harmony with the signal now echoing through every city on Earth. Harding stood beside her, silent, watching the horizon flicker with cold blue light. A final tone rang out, low and steady. "They're not coming," Nora whispered. "They've awakened." As the first sunlight broke, the signal reached its peak, and the world held its breath. By midday, the world had changed. Every compass spun wildly. Birds migrated in circles. Tides disobeyed gravity. The pulse that began beneath the Pacific now thrummed through concrete, bone, and sky. Satellites caught images of luminous veins spreading across the ocean floor like living circuitry. Nora and Harding watched from their lab as the planet's magnetic field rippled on their screens. "It's synchronizing," Nora murmured. Harding frowned. "With what?" She stared at the data, realization dawning. "With us. Every heartbeat on Earth is matching its rhythm." Outside, even the wind seemed to move in time with the deep vibration below. Emergency broadcasts flooded the airwaves. Governments denied involvement. Scientists argued live on television, and people across continents gathered along shorelines to witness the glowing seas. Some claimed to hear voices beneath the waves calling their names. Nora traced the signals and found something chilling. The source wasn't fixed anymore. It was moving inland, following tectonic lines toward populated regions. Harding packed their equipment. "If this spreads to fault zones, it could tear the planet apart." Nora shook her head slowly. "Or rewrite it." For the first time, she didn't sound afraid. She sounded almost reverent. By evening, seismic alerts lit up the global network. Yet instead of destruction, cities experienced moments of weightlessness, objects lifting a few centimeters before settling back down. In one recording, a deep harmonic tone vibrated through entire skylines, shattering glass yet leaving people unharmed. Nora realized the frequency mirrored the human alpha brainwave. "It's tuning us," she whispered. Harding stared at her. "You mean adapting?" She nodded slowly. "Merging." Outside, streetlights flickered in perfect unison, and for the briefest second, every person who heard the tone felt the same thought. "We are not alone, nor separate." Harding began to feel it too, his pulse sensing to the vibration beneath his feet. He pressed a hand to his chest. His heartbeat matched the global frequency. Nora recorded his vitals, watching the monitor form perfect waves identical to the Earth's resonance. "It's rewriting biology," she said quietly. "A collective recalibration." Harding forced a half smile. "So, what are we becoming?" Nora looked up at him, her eyes reflecting faint blue light. "What we were always meant to be." Outside, lightning arced silently across the horizon, shaped like veins spreading from the sea toward the mountains. That night, the entire sky changed color. Clouds parted over the Pacific, revealing colossal spirals of light rising from the sea, twisting into the atmosphere like luminous roots. Nora stood on the cliff beside Harding, their equipment forgotten. The world hummed with one endless note. "It's not an invasion," she said softly. "It's an awakening." Harding turned toward her, realization dawning in his eyes. "And Warren?" Nora smiled faintly, tears tracing her cheeks. He opened the door. As the spirals stretched beyond the stars, the sound deepened into silence. The silence before evolution takes its next breath. It's been a month since the spirals first appeared in the sky. The pulse that resonated through the earth has now settled into a constant hum that vibrates through every living thing. Cities that were once filled with chaos are now eerily quiet, the streets empty, but for people who no longer speak, at least not with words. Instead, they share thoughts, emotions, and memories through a subtle connection, like a unified consciousness. There are no more wars. There are no borders. The planet has become a living organism, interconnected and aware. But in that awareness, some parts of humanity resist, unable to accept the transformation. For Nora and Harding, it's too late to return to the way things were. The door Warren opened has closed behind them, and the world will never be the same. The shift began when the sky and ocean synchronized, and then the land. The air was no longer the same, charged with an electric hum that filled everything. Thoughts, whispers, the very ground we walked on. It wasn't just a connection. It was symbiosis. Plants grew faster, animals adapted, and even the atmosphere seemed to bend towards something greater. Yet for all the beauty and wonder of this change, a part of us remained tethered to what we once knew. Harding looked out at the ocean that day, its surface now rippling with light, and asked, "What if we're the last to wake up?" Nora turned to him, a quiet smile on her face. "Maybe we already have. The global phenomenon continues to spread, but now it feels like something close to home. People have adapted as though they were always meant to be part of the pulse. The boundaries of the human mind stretch, and memory is no longer confined to the past. Children born in this new world show an unsettling ability to recall forgotten history. Like the knowledge of the Earth song is passed to them through instinct. There is a deepening sense of oneness in every person, an understanding that they are part of something ancient, alive, and vast." Nora watches as Harding steps into the crowd, a faint glow now pulsing from his skin, a reflection of the Earth's rhythm. He reaches out, touching the hand of a passerby. A shared thought passes between them. In the final days before the transformation reached its peak, there was a moment of silence, a pause in the rhythm, a collective breath held by every living being. Nora had one last conversation with Dr. Simon Yates, who now lived on a remote island, having retreated from the chaos of cities. "What happens now?" she asked him. His voice, soft and reflective, came through the comms. "Now we listen. We were always meant to be part of this." Nora stared at the sky one last time and felt it. The understanding, the deep connection to the planet and its rhythm. It was no longer something to fear, but something to embrace. Humanity had crossed the threshold. They had become one with the Earth's heartbeat. As the sun set on the final day of the old world, Nora recorded one last message for the future. "We were never meant to be apart from the Earth," she said softly. "We were always meant to be part of its pulse, part of its song. What came from below was never an alien force. It was us, waiting for the moment to wake up." The final tone rang out, deep and resonant, filling the air with the promise of something new. The sky above them shifted, the spirals now woven into the fabric of the stars, and the Earth's rhythm pulsed with one final harmonious beat. The planet and humanity had become one.